Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Well, this morning, I'm inviting you to explore what matters most. So, how do you know what matters most? You can look at where you are spending your time, where you're putting your attention and your energy, and that can tell you something about what matters most to you in your life. I was talking to one of our neighbors about this topic. His name is William. He lives across the street from us, and he is a proud Aggie. Always proud to tell you about it. And he shared something with me about this topic. He said, you need to share this with your congregation because it'll preach. You got to share this. So I said, okay, all right, I'll tell you this story. He said that he went through a really rough divorce. This was years back. And that he ended up giving his ex-wife $1 million. And so he was so angry, he was so upset, he was bitter, and he wanted to tell everybody about it. So he told that story to his friends, to his family, over and over. Whenever they'd see him, he'd bring up the divorce, how horrible it was, how he lost $1 million to his ex-wife, and that was his money, et cetera, et cetera. And one day, about 3 years after this divorce, his friend, another Aggie, was talking to him and said, William, you know, your friends, your family, we've all heard this story. We don't want to hear it anymore. He said, I want you to call me 24/7, anytime, if you see a hearse that has a luggage rack on the top. Think about it. So you can't take it with you. How much do we focus on the importance of protecting our stuff, our money, our stuff, and put our time and our energy and attention into it? Society tells us to, right? When you buy things, you're going to feel good. So buy more things. Have a bigger house, a bigger car, a bigger boat, or whatever it is, more quantity, okay? But our inner reality tells us something different when we listen to it and what matters most. So how do we really determine what matters most if it isn't the stuff that would go up on the luggage rack? Well, you can feel it. How does it feel when you know what matters most? You feel it in your heart. When you can feel in your heart what matters most, then you know. Then you're on to something there. You're on to something. I think about, there's been so much news coverage of the shooting in Uvalde. And one thing that I've really taken away, because anytime something bad and tragic happens, good can come from it. Transformation can come from it and healing. And I heard one of the parents sharing that they wanted people to know, make sure you hug your kids at night. Make sure that you cherish every moment. Make every moment matter because you really don't know how much time you have. And I took that away with me as something that I can do and I can remember about what matters most. That in the light of something like that, and what can I do in my own life to cherish the moment. I wanted to share this topic with you because in March, our lives changed pretty drastically and unexpectedly when I got a call from my mom's doctor that said that my mom accidentally overdosed on some blood thinners she was taking, and we needed to go to Florida right away to get her. She couldn't be alone, living alone anymore as she was. And in that moment, I knew that was what mattered most. And even though it took time away from my work, which matters so much to me, that it's my mom. You only get one mom. You know, you only get one mom, and she was always there for me. Whenever I was in shows, I used to do theater, she would come to Illinois or Minnesota or New York, wherever I was doing a show, she was the one who was always there. And now it was my time to be there for her. And so my husband and I set forth to do Operation Save Mom, and we went down to Florida, and we got her stuff up here. We have several trips of packing and moving and preparing for her to be here. And she was with us from March until just this week. We got her into a new apartment, which I'm so grateful. Thank you for prayers. The staff, everybody's been praying that she loves, and she's doing well. And she's here in Houston with us. And it let me know that though everything had changed, everything was upside down, that my heart knew what mattered most was to do this for my mom. And that things happen in our lives that change the course of action, where it's unexpected. We might not have wanted it. We might not have seen it coming. Might not have been in our 5-year strategic plan, but there it is. And your heart knows. That's what matters most, and that's what we're talking about today. Now, what's important may change at different times in your life, in different stages, in different circumstances. What's most important to a teenager is not going to be most important to an older adult or when you are older, an older stage of your life. And I think about the people in the Ukraine. What matters most to them right now is not going to be the same as what matters most to us right now. People who have been hospitalized with COVID, their next breath is what matters the most to them in that moment. And what matters most is a huge question. And in Unity, if you've been around for a while, you know that we usually don't give you the answers to these kind of questions. We want you to discern this. And so that's why we're exploring it together and kind of being open to it. A student asked a Zen master, "What is the most important thing?" And the Zen master replied, "Good judgment." And the student said, "Oh, well, how do you get good judgment?" And he said, "Bad judgment." That tells you something about what's more important. As we grow on our spiritual path, what's mattering the most in our lives changes. It shifts. I want to share with you another story about a Zen master that's about judgment. And it's about this renowned Zen master, and his name was Hakin, and he lived in Japan. And he was well revered. He had many students who would come, and they would visit him, and they would ask him for wisdom, advice. They would sit at the feet of his teachings. And he was very loved, very revered. And one day, his next-door neighbor, there was a family living next door who had a teenage daughter. And the teenage daughter became pregnant, and the family found out about it. The parents, they were furious, and they insisted that she tell them who the father is. And she tried to hide it. She didn't want to tell them. And then finally, she said, "Well, the father is the Zen master, Hakin." And the parents were in an uproar, and they stormed over to Hakin's home, and they slammed on the door. They knocked on the door, and they said, "Come out. You know, we found out from our daughter that she's pregnant, and you're the father." And the Zen master replied, "Is that so?" That's it. That's all. He just replied, "Is that so?" And the parents left, and as time went on, he stopped having students because the news of this gossip went around, not just their town, but well beyond. He was well known, and he didn't have anyone coming to him for wisdom and teachings anymore. A year passed, or 9 months passed, actually, and the child was born. And the parents come, and this part is almost unbelievable how they could do this, but the parents come and they bring the child to the Zen master, and they say, "This is your child, you take care of it." And they give the child to the Zen master, a little boy, and he said, "Is that so?" Yeah. And he takes the boy, and he takes care of this boy, and he loves this boy as if he was his own, and feeds him and bathes him and all the things that a parent would do. And time passes, and no students, and he's still just caring for this child. And the parents come back a year later. Their daughter finally confessed. The father, in fact, was not the Zen master, but it was a young man who worked at the butcher shop. And so they came groveling to this Zen master who was well revered in this community, and they said, "We're so sorry, please forgive us. We didn't know that our daughter had lied, and we want to take the child back from you since he's not your child." He said, "Is that so?" And you have to think how much he grew to love that child he was taking care of every day for a year. Infant requires constant care. And he gave the child back. So what can that tell us about what matters most? Well, you know, the Zen master was very Zen in that, in his response, right? Is that so? He didn't act like a victim. He didn't start a lawsuit. He didn't rile up the community and form a group to sign a petition against the parent, nothing like that, right? He knew what mattered was, in that moment, to take care of that child whose mother and grandparents had abandoned him and had given him over thinking he was the dad. And he did it with love and kindness and without protest. So that tells us something about living in the moment. Whatever was false or true, good news or bad news, he responded with, "Is that so?" And can we do that? Can you think if that's possible for you to do that? Is that so? And face life with acceptance. To turn a bad situation, which in this case was the abandoned child, into something good, into nurturing and care and opening of the heart. When we practice non-resistance or acceptance, we become one with our life experience. And I read in the Daily Word the other day, it said that when we become one with the experiences of our lives, we become one with God. Because God is life in the present moment. And that's how we experience oneness, when we're attuned without becoming victims, without resistance. This shouldn't be happening, I don't want this. And doing what's in our heart, what's the highest and best, and what really matters in the moment. Last week, I had the opportunity to do a memorial for someone who is a part of our community. I love getting to do memorials because I get to find out what is really essential about someone's life and just get to know them in their essence and what they really brought as their gift to this world. And this woman's name is Carol Nimi. I don't know if any of you know her, but she was a part of A Course in Miracles, and she was a very talented physical therapist. They told me, I didn't know her, that she did shiatsu, and she had bars on her ceiling, and she would walk on people's backs. And the people who were her clients said that they just didn't think they could ever find anybody as good as her. She's just an amazingly talented healer. And when I asked the family about her, what they would remember most about her, what they learned from her life, the gift of her life, they said that what was remarkable about her was her acceptance of her cancer diagnosis. She passed when she was 63, and she was a healer, and so she had done everything she could in her career to help other people heal, and here she recognized her own healing process and accepted it and went through her treatment, and she even wrote out what she wanted her memorial to be like. And so it was an honor to see that and to honor that for her and to celebrate her and her wishes and that awareness of accepting. Wow, imagine, I think for myself, I don't know how old y'all are, but if I knew I was going to pass at 63, what matters most to me might change. Knowing how much time I might have left, and inspire to assess. One of the greatest gifts that we can give to someone who's passed, we can't give them anything tangible really anymore, is the gift of accepting their passing and moving forward in our lives in the way that we best can and know how. What's really important, as far as what matters, is to pay attention to your present moment experience and to find satisfaction in that. We can find satisfaction in our present moment experience. Satisfaction is a sense of completeness, that nothing is left unfinished. I was asking my spiritual director about this experience of satisfaction, and he asked me, well, if you died today, let's just say if you died, what would feel unfinished for you? What would feel incomplete? I said, well, I think my role at Unity, I'm wonderful, but I know I could be replaced. There are lots of other fantastic ministers. What I know that in my family I couldn't be replaced. And as a mother and as a spouse, that role, that there would be something that would feel was missing. And that tells us something about what matters most. Where are you irreplaceable in a life or to someone? What matters most? How do you define what's important? You can see impermanence so easily in children. As you see these kids, we've seen some of them when they were babies, and you see them grow up and like, wow, they're tall, they're going into middle school or high school. It's just amazing. I feel like I saw them when they were little itty-bitty in the nursery. And I see that with my daughter. She's 6, and it's like, I want to hold on to 6 as long as possible. Don't get older, just stay 6. This is great. And I said the same thing about 5 and 4 and 3. Impermanence and being in the moment. I want to share with you a story from the Bible about being in the moment. It's one of my favorites. It's just a short 5-verse story. And it's about Jesus it's from Luke, chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. Jesus enters a village and he visits the house of Martha and Mary. Martha and Mary are friends with Jesus. And Jesus, as we know, he traveled with an entourage. He didn't just show up at somebody's house by himself. He had the 12 disciples and other people, women who traveled with him, a whole group. And so Martha comes to the door. Oh, Jesus is here. Oh, Lord, you're here. And we better make a feast for this group. But she wants to really impress them. So she gets out all the fancy china and silverware, whatever the equivalent was back in the ancient times, and prepares a meal. She's working hard, and her sister Mary is there, and Mary is not paying any attention to what Martha's doing. She's with Jesus, and she's sitting at his feet, and they're praying, and they're talking about spiritual things, and she's getting annoyed. She's like, Mary, and Mary's not paying attention to her. She's like, Jesus, look at my sister. She's just sitting there, and she needs to help us prepare. Look at all these people, we have to feed them. And Jesus just looks at her and goes, Martha, Martha, you worry about so many things. You're so stressed out. There's only one thing that's really important, that really matters the most. And Mary knows what that is. She knows the better half. And she's found it. And what does that tell us about what matters the most? There's always lots to do. I can find stuff to do and never sit and meditate and pray. Just things pile up. Emails to answer, phone calls to make, laundry to do. In Unity, one of the ways we understand the Bible is metaphysically, and we have a book called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, which was put together by our Unity co-founder, Charles Fillmore. And in that book, he cites the different characters in the Bible and what they represent on an inner level for each of us and what they represent for ourselves on the spiritual path. And he says that Martha and Mary represent 2 different expressions of love. That Martha represents the expression of love and care for the physical, care for the body, care for your needs. And that's an important part of love, to care for the physical needs of a person that you care about. Mary represents the love of the spiritual, the care for prayer and attending to the consciousness and the inner life of yourself and of another. And so, who did what matters most? You could say Martha. Martha knew they needed to eat. Maybe they were tired, they were dirty, whatever, from walking to her village, and She knew that was what mattered. And Jesus is telling us, well, both are important. And attend to the spiritual. That is the higher need. That is what mattered more. What he said, Mary has chosen the better part. So, who was in the moment? Well, you could say Mary was in the moment as far as knowing the life of God and the presence of God expressed in Jesus and being in that life. Faith mattering more than food. Go figure. Faith matters more than food. That's the story. Now, this physical form we know is only temporary. There's that spiritual aspect of us that is eternal. And our faith and our trust in God allows us to surrender our challenges and to know that all is really okay. All is really okay when we put our faith in God, we surrender, we let go. And we still want to take measures out of wisdom. We still lock our doors because it's a wise thing to do. We take safety measures here at Unity. We have security guards, not because we're in fear, but because it's a wise thing to do. It has to do with the attitude and the intention that's behind something and knowing what really matters. So there are three possible answers to what matters most. Everything, nothing, or just this moment, just as it is, and how I meet it. So I invite you to consider this week what matters most to you in light of everything in your life, to get into your heart and feel it. I want to close with sharing with you these 8 principles of planetary purpose. They have an unknown author, but I thought it was relevant to our conversation this morning. 1, planet Earth is a classroom. 2, in order to enter Earth's classroom, each of you must wear a bodysuit. 3, when you receive your body, amnesia will set in and you will forget who you really are and why you came. 4, Earth's curriculum centers around remembering the spirit and the love that you already are. 5, when you do begin to remember the love that you are, your intention to fully manifest that love will be challenged. 6, this is because each of you will receive a personal ego and free will along with the body when you're born. 7, all learning and growth center around the challenge of rising above the ego to manifest the love that you are. And 8, graduation from Earth's classroom depends on fully becoming love in action. So this morning I invite you to know, as you consider what matters most to you, that what draws you into being love and action, that is your gift, that is your service, and that is your greatest calling in life, and that is what matters most. Let us take this into prayer. As we turn to God in prayer, we know that God is love, and therefore I am love. You are love. We are love. And it is from the love of God that we will be guided into the wisdom of what is the highest and best to do for our work in the world, to make a difference, to be a light, to be love in our world, in our present situation, in our family, in our workplace, in our schools. And being that love in action brings transformative light and healing to the world. And so, God, we allow ourselves to be open and receptive to your love and your light, and we let it shine, and we make choices based on love, based on the highest good. We put faith first. We put God first. We put our spiritual life first, knowing that God is first cause. God is source. And from that source energy, we see heaven on earth. And for this, we are grateful. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you so much for choosing to be here this morning. Michael always says, if no one's ever told you today that they love you, I love you, and I do love you, and you matter so much to us. You matter most to our community. We pray for you. Every week our ministers join together, and we're praying for you specifically because we love you. Go forth and be love in action. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.